Amy Pond. The girl who waited all night in your garden. Was it worth it?
Shut up. Of course it was.
You asked me why I was taking you with me, and I said, no reason. I was lying.
It's not important.
Yeah, it's the most important thing left in the universe. That's why I'm doing this. Amy, your house was too big. That big. Empty house, just you.
Oh, not Sharon.
Where were your mum and dad? Where was everybody who lived in that big house?
I lost my mum and dad.
How? What happened to them? Where did they go?
I don't...
It's okay, don't panic. It's not your fault.
I don't even remember.
There was a crack in time in the wall of your bedroom, and it's been eating away at your life for a long time now. Amy Pond. All alone. A girl who didn't make sense. How could I resist?
How could I just forget?
Nothing is ever forgotten. Not really. But you have to try.
Doctor, it's speeding up!
There's going to be a very Big Bang 2. Try and remember your family and they'll be there.
How can I remember them if they never existed?
Because you're special. That crack in your wall, all that time. The universe pouring into your head. You brought Rory back, you can bring them back too. You just remember. And they'll be there.
You won't.
You'll have your family back. You won't need your imaginary friend anymore. Amy Pond. Crying over me, eh? Guess what?
What?
Gotcha.
Hello and welcome to Who Watches Who, a Doctor Who podcast with me, a very spooky looking Matthew, and as always I am joined with...
a less spooky looking Scott? Why are you spooky looking today? What's
I'm
up?
covered in pumpkins.
Oh nice,
I'm
I wish I
covered in
could see.
pumpkins.
Take a picture.
I'm in a big fluffy like cozy hoodie thing, and I got pumpkins all over it because it's getting into that cold season, and it's been raining all day, and my bedroom is like 1 degree Celsius because
Nice.
it's a big house and it's a old empty room. And, it doesn't keep the heat.
So you look like David S. Pumpkins today, I guess.
I took a photo. It's a very, very good pose. If you were watching the podcast, you'll be able to see the pose that I did as well.
Very nice. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
But anyway, this week we are looking at The Big Bang as we conclude our look into Matt Smith already. That's insane. As this year we have been going through every Doctor in chronological order from the first all the way up to the 11th now with Matt Smith. Last week we looked at the Pandorica Opens, the first part of this finale, and we are now looking at The Big Bang, a significantly better episode. If you missed last week's episode, you can go back and listen to it, but before then, if you're sticking with us, I guess, Scott, have you got things to say about The Big Bang, the episode known in Doctor Who history?
Yeah, just off the bat, it's insane. We only have 3 more episodes in our chronological look. Although we are technically covering the 14th Doctor and the 15th Doctor this year, so that's
Oh yeah, I guess if you want to get
7 more episodes. That's not bad.
God, it's crazy. It's crazy how close we are to new Doctor Who.
Oh, it's crazy. I just realized this morning it's like maybe 6 weeks at the most for new Doctor Who. That's exciting. And there's also maybe a trailer coming tomorrow on Saturday, so that's going to be interesting. We'll cover that next week on the news just to quickly get that out there. But this episode is called The Big Bang, and Moffat named the episode The Big Bang because this is the night Amy and Rory will do a big bang to create River Song. Classic Stephen Moffat, you know. And you know,
I love him.
River Song's name in the first place is a rude thing to talk about. It comes from Russell T Davies and Moffat trying to come up with rude acronyms for episodes, and Moffat came up with a River Song ending, which also spells arse. Russell T Davies asked what a River Song was. Moffat replied with, I don't know, I guess I'll just name a character River Song. So that's where River Song got her name, just because Stephen Moffat...
I almost wish Husbands of River Song was called River Song's ending.
But like, we talk about how Stephen Moffat always puts in innuendos all everywhere. He uses innuendos all the time, and so it's no surprise.
He's a funny man.
He is a funny man. He's very Scottish as well. I like Scottish people, so we need more Scottish showrunners.
I think we need less Scottish people.
Fair. Anyway, do you want to jump into the episode? That's all I had to say.
Yeah, it's super short, brief part before we break down the episode. Let's break down the episode, The Big Bang. Wahoo!
When you wake up, you'll have a mum and dad. And you won't even remember me. Well, you'll remember me a little. There'll be a story in your head. That's okay. We're all stories in the end. Just make it a good one, eh? 'Cause it was, you know. It was the best. The daft old man who stole a magic box and ran away. Did I ever tell you that I stole it? Well, I borrowed it. I was always going to take it back. Oh, that box. Amy. Your dream about that box. He'll never leave you. Big and little at the same time. Brand new and ancient and the bluest blue ever. And the times we had, eh? Would have had. Never. In your dreams, they'll still be there. The Doctor and Amy Pond. And the days that never came. The cracks are closing. But they can't close properly till I'm on the other side. I don't belong here anymore. I think I'll skip the rest of the rewind. I hate repeats. Live well. Love, Rory. Bye-bye, Bond.
So, the episode begins with a really, really long flashback from the last episode. I say flashback, recap, not flashback, from the last episode. I mean, the audience is flashing back. That it goes on for like a minute and a half before we finally actually open up the episode. Oh, wait, hang on. We're watching the 11th hour suddenly with little Amelia Pond praying at her bed to Santa Claus.
Yeah, and this is brand new footage. A part of it is obviously brand new footage. I'm not sure which bits are cut in because it fits seamlessly into the episode. You know, you're not sure when the cuts come in. And when this first aired, I'm like, oh shit, did the BBC put on the wrong episode? It felt so weird seeing this footage from the first episode again, just not knowing, not expecting them to go back to the night Amelia Pond met the Doctor.
Yeah, it's very fun, and of course, tied in perfectly in the 11th hour, as we covered over 100 episodes ago in episode like 3 or something of this podcast. With the 11th hour, when you see this Matt Smith Doctor traveling back in time to speak to this Amelia Pond, or do whatever it is he's doing, leaving notes for her or something. Anyway,
although it's been a while since I went back and watched the 11th hour. In the 11th hour, I feel like Matt Smith walks in front of the camera inside the house, even though in this episode he isn't inside the house. So
I think so. I don't remember, but
yeah,
they made it work as best they could. Yeah. But anyway, Amelia, I'll say Amelia to keep it simple because Amelia and Amy are both in this episode. But Amelia is getting chastised by her parent or her auntie and a social worker.
Yeah,
I
social
imagine is the
worker.
other person. Because she's daring to be imaginative and paint stars in the night sky when stars don't exist. Because look, if we look up into the sky, there are no stars. So there's no way that stars are real. Stop believing in stars. Stop having an imagination like a child.
Do you see
and
stars
also
where you are?
Yeah.
Because I don't see any stars because I live in the city and I just see
I think
light,
it's-
you know?
I think it's a bit cloudy and rainy right now, but I can see stars at nighttime.
Go outside
Yeah.
right now and tell me. Take a
I
picture.
I don't want to. I could open up my blinds, but also I don't want to. So you
But
have to deal with that.
This is the second story in a row we've covered where stars not being in the sky is a big plot point. You know, that's what happened in Journey's End and the Stolen Earth. Again, I get those titles backwards. I don't understand. But you know, that's what happened in the
It's
last
called
episode.
Journey's
It's so
End.
strange.
End. Yeah, it is strange. And also, like, watching it, like, as the episodes are written and, like, you know, in the way that the series plays, it doesn't feel that jarring or too similar because there's, like, all those episodes between it. But when you watch them back to back, it's like, oh, wait, what? We're doing the same thing again.
Yeah, and also the stars are wiped out because other planets are also being wiped out, almost like in Journey's End. That's kind of what happened in Journey's End, you know? It's so strange how we keep running into these
There's only
similarities.
so many ways to end the universe. But her auntie gets very concerned that Amelia's going to grow up and join a star cult, which is such a fun throwaway line, that there's a star cult in this world and that they don't trust Richard Dawkins, who I'm assuming is the leader of said star cult.
It makes sense.
There's...
He'd be the leader of some sort of cult these days.
We see the Doctor put a letter through Amelia's door with it's like a pamphlet for the museum. They look at all like dinosaurs and stuff like that. And then we cut to Amelia there in the museum with her auntie, where she sees a stone Dalek, but eventually drags her to see the Pandorica, which is just lit amazingly the entire time in this episode. Like shot of her like standing between the doors with the Pandorica in the background, and there's like this like halo light around it almost. It looks amazing.
The lighting of the Pandorica is amazing. And this museum is like fucked up history stuff, because we get the penguins of the Nile, which also isn't a real thing. There's no penguins in the Nile. And, you know, this is Stephen Moffat basically telling us, because of all the planets being wiped out because of the cracks, history is just being fucked up, and this is something that he'd really go for next series final with the Wedding of River Song, where, you know, you got Charles Dickens and Winston Churchill and dinosaurs and so he'd really capitalize on this idea next year. Next year. Amelia
decides she has to run away. Essentially, she sees a letter that says stick around, and her auntie is like feigns concern. I assume so that she can say that she did look for her without feeling guilty. But she doesn't care about Amelia. She's happy she's gone. Really, there's no police. They don't keep it open to search the entire building head to
it's
toe
so
for her.
strange.
There's no interviews. I assume she just imagines she's been kidnapped. And they're just like, oh well, that's a weight lifted if anything.
Plus, this is the last time we see and hear about Vianti, so maybe she just abandoned Amy and
Yeah,
just left the country or whatever.
yeah, she's celebrating. But then the Pandorica starts to open, and we see what we're expecting the Doctor to be in there because we just saw the Doctor get trapped in there last week. But it opens up to Amy inside, and Amy says, "Okay, kid, now it's about to get confusing," or something. I think that's the exact line. And then we cut to the title, and I remember, and just even watching it back again, like it's such an ace way to open an episode because immediately you're like, ooh, this is interesting. What's happening? Timey-wimey. And it's cool. It's really cool.
What's interesting is the original script would have opened up with the next scene with Rory cradling a dead Amy in his arms, which wouldn't be as impactful as an opening. This puts you into this is such a mysterious way to open the episode. It constantly keeps you guessing about what's going to happen next. And just little details like Amelia coming out from her hiding spot, and she knocks over one of the penguins, and she apologizes to the penguin, which is such a nice little touch. I really love how weird Amy is as a kid.
Yes.
And also, this end scene here is inspired by Spielberg. The director really wanted to capture a sense of awe, like when you see the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park or whatever. Just the shot of the Pandorica just the way it's lit is really nice, and the music building up. It's such a great direction for its opening scene.
Yeah, no, the Pandorica looks ace in every single scene that it's in. It's such a cool big box. Such a cool big box. And then we have Rory after the opening credits, as you said, being all sad and miserable, which it would like, as if this was the opening scene, drastically changes the tone of the episode. Like the tone of the episode is set in that opening scene of, ooh, this is some exciting time travel shenanigans that are going to be happening. Or if you open it with Rory crying, it's, oh, this is a dramatic, sad episode. Like, this is like Amy's dead in Rory's arms. Oh my god, what's going to happen? It sets your expectations in a different way. I think the opening scene is probably the best scene you could open with. But anyway, Rory is sitting crying, and he's got a great line where he's like, we could do with a ridiculous miracle right about now. And then, of course, the Doctor in a fez holding a mop appears in front of him as if, like, out of the thin air, which is one of the most Stephen Moffat things I can imagine. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, like, this image of the Doctor with a fez and mop became instantly iconic to just anyone in the Doctor Who fandom between 2010 to 2013. Like, this was like the main image you'd associate with Doctor Who. Like, whenever you're on Tumblr looking at the Doctor Who tag, you'd see like a million posts of the Doctor with his fez on. It's such a great look on Matt Smith as well.
It is. He looks so silly yet sophisticated. It is a fantastic look. I remember loving the look as well. Like, when did this episode come out? 2010. So yeah, 10-year-old me was like, this is because it's like funny, but he pulls it off. So it's like, this is great. This is everything that like summarizes Matt Smith's Doctor perfectly.
Like, even the mop, as ridiculous as it is, kind of pulls off the outfit. It's such a great accessory to the outfit as well.
Yeah, it really is. But he gives Rory the sonic screwdriver and tells him to just point it at the Pandorica and not worry about it. And then he teleports away. Then he comes back and he's like, and stick it in Amy's jacket when you're done. And, Rory's a bit befuddled, but he's like, okay, I guess I'll do that. He opens up the Pandorica to a very confused looking Matt Smith. I absolutely love his performance here, where he's just like in shock almost that like Rory's saving him. Like, what is going on? And again, lit amazingly with that light coming in from behind him. Like,
oh god, yeah. That must have been so hard to pull off. But, it's also a classic Spielberg look, because Spielberg loves characters being lit from behind by a massive spotlight. If you look at like movies like Jurassic Park 2 especially, there's just some great imagery with spotlights behind the characters.
very nice, very nice. I was thinking about Spielberg recently. I might rewatch AI, which I haven't seen since I was a kid. I don't remember it being great.
I would say it's half good. I watched it maybe like 6-7 years ago. I remember enjoying it,
But anyway, Rory's like, the doctor's like, how did you save me, Rory? Rory's like, you told me to save you. You gave me your sonic screwdriver. The doctor's like, no, I didn't. And then they touch Sonic's, and there's a little spark. And, because it's the sonic screwdriver from the future meeting the sonic screwdriver from the past. And it leads to a very fun paradox.
When Stephen Moffat wrote the description in the script, Rory and the Doctor touched Sonics, he was giggling away to himself. He would write that classic size comparison joke in the Day of the Doctor, where was it Matt Smith?
David Tennant's one. David Tennant's one can grow because it gets bigger, whereas Matt Smith's one is just chunky and like flicks open.
No. Does it? Does David Tennant's one
David
grow?
Tennant's one grows.
Does it?
It's got like you can push it up and the neck extends.
But doesn't...
Have you ever watched Doctor Who?
No.
Matt Smith's one's got the spiky bits at the side that open up.
Yeah, but okay.
It doesn't grow.
I don't pay attention to Sonic Screwdriver
You are a
designs.
fake fan.
I'm so
you
sorry.
are a fake fan. You are a fake fan. But it leads to this fun paradox of who saved Matt Smith to start with, because obviously Matt Smith saves himself. But how did the original version of Matt Smith manage to get out of the Pandorica? Because the only way he can get out of the Pandorica is if he gives Rory the screwdriver, but you can only give Rory the screwdriver because he got out of the Pandorica because he gave Rory the screwdriver. It's a brilliant paradox. Love it.
And it's not a paradox you're sitting there thinking about during the episode, because sometimes there's paradoxes presented in the show where you're just distracted the entire time just trying to think of how it could have worked. That's the problem with a lot of Stephen Moffat scripts, is sometimes he's a bit too clever by half and it's distracting. But this one really works because you're not really... I'm not really thinking about it.
I think time travel paradoxes are fun, and I think it's fun to play with a paradox as well, because it's like, this doesn't make sense, but time travel doesn't make sense. So having a paradox, you're just like, I guess we're okay with it. You just have to accept like we're in a illogical situation here. It's very fun. But they go out and they look at all the statued villains because time is collapsing and that turns people into statues or something. And Amy, who is like dead but not dead, and then like they go outside and Matt Smith decides to test Rory by getting him to punch him, because he's like, who cares about Amy, there's so many other people dead, Rory, ha ha ha, hint hint hint. And then Rory punches him, which is just, it's such a weird way for the Rory the Doctor to test Rory. But I guess it's like whatever. There's a really bad sound effect when he hits him as well.
Yeah, but it does give off some great physical acting from Matt Smith when he gets right up. He pops up right from the bottom of the frame and just does it like a gurning face, just to snap his jaw in place again. But also what I love about this conversation between the Doctor and Rory is the Doctor's basically like, oh yeah, you're artificial, you're not real, you're not the real Rory. And what I love, just what I love about sci-fi, again, going back to like Artificial Intelligence, the movie by Steven Spielberg, is I just love the idea of a person living an artificial life. Like after they die, they wound up being like an artificial life, because if you're like a robot after you die and you have all your memories, all your characteristics, you're basically just you, but you're not you. Are you really you?
Yeah.
Which is such
Yeah.
because remember the movie Astro Boy that came out like the year before this.
Oh, I loved that movie.
Yeah, so
loved
did I
that
as a
movie.
kid. I presume it doesn't hold up, but
I don't know. The animation was amazing.
the entire movie, I was thinking just about just the thought of the like the philosophical side of the discussion, just the idea of, is this boy still the boy? You know,
Yeah.
is he still the boy?
That movie got Nicolas Cage in it, doesn't it?
Oh, probably. What did?
I think he plays the dad. Doesn't he
That's
play the
true.
dad?
Maybe it's been a long time. He plays Dr. Tenma, so I presume so.
Yeah.
And
God,
Freddie
God,
Highmore, he is a doctor, plays Astro Boy. I am a surgeon.
Oh my god, that guy's Astro Boy. Interesting.
He has an interesting career. He's also like Charlie and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He's also Norman Bates
Yeah.
in Bates Motel.
Yeah.
I can't say if he's any good or not. He's alright in Bates Motel, but you know.
I never watched Bates Motel. He's in the bad Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie. He's not in like anything that I like, but I know his face.
Yeah, I watched like a season and a
Um,
half of Bates Motel. I don't know if I want to get back into it or not. It's weird. It's, you know.
Yeah, I watched an episode of it and went, this isn't for me.
Like the thing with Bates Motel in the original Psycho movie is you kind of feel like the motel is secluded from society, kind of. But in the TV show, it's like, oh yeah, there's heaps of war crimes going on. There's drugs, and he has a brother, and it just adds so many different layers.
It's also set in the modern day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that putting me off.
I think the last season is just a remake of the original movie, but obviously 10 episodes long instead of a movie length, which
That's kind of
sounds
fun.
interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
that's
Rihanna plays Marion, which sounds like a good
Oh,
fun time.
interesting. But anyway, yeah. What were we talking about?
I don't know.
Rory wasn't real, and the doctor was like, "You're not real, Rory." And they lock Amy up into the box, and Rory's. They have a very fun conversation here, where the doctor's like, we're gonna leave her here. We'll come back in the future to get her out. And Rory's like, okay, cool, I'll stay then. And the doctor's like, what do you mean you'll stay? You'll be really bored. 2,000 years, you're gonna be super bored. But Rory's like, nah, it's okay, I'll stay. And he becomes the dude who chilled at the side of the box for 2,000 years, which I think that's the title that they came up for it as well.
Yeah, that's the Big Finish box set. That's the spin off for Big Finish. The dude who waited for 2,000 years. Such a catchy title.
I think so.
Before this, the doctor does leave Amy a message by doing a mind meld, and in the script it's described as like a mind meld from the girl in the fireplace and the 11th hour, which is quite sweet. I really love just the continuity of a mind meld. I just love the doctor being psychic.
Yes, and I love Matt Smith's version of doing it by headbutting.
Yeah, you headbutted James Corden a few episodes ago. Great time. We actually see in this episode James Corden getting headbutted just briefly.
We do.
Which
I mean, good moment to relive.
Yeah, especially now that we know about James Corden in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly a guy who is there in the world. But the Rory decides to wait, and he takes a seat down. And before we continue on with the episode, I was looking up Astro Boy. It says, this is the Rotten Tomatoes like consensus thing. While it isn't terribly original and seems to have a political agenda that may rankle some viewers, Astro Boy boasts enough visual thrills to please its target demographic. I don't remember the political agenda in this movie. What is the political agenda? in Astro Boy.
Astro Boy 2009.
Political
Politics.
agenda.
Red and Blue.
They wanted
Politics
the
of
robots
Astro
to
Boy.
have rights.
It's an American political message.
What is the political message? Because I haven't seen this since I was a kid, so obviously the political message went over my head.
Oh, I guess it's because obviously in the original anime, I think it's more about Astro Boy having atomic power, and in this movie he has blue core energy, so it takes away all the analogy of like World War II, I guess.
Maybe?
There's a long
Maybe.
blog post I'm just scrolling through. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit.
Gotta rewatch the movie and see if I can catch the woke mind virus that they tried to sneak into this one.
But-
Here we go. The movie has its heart in the right place with its pro-eco, anti-war message. So the politics of the movie that might upset viewers is that it's anti-war and pro-eco. Oh yeah, because of course, because there's like a whole big, like they live in the huge, super industrialized world, and then Astro Boy goes and he has to live with all the natural hippies, you know, and because he gets like cast out or whatever. Interesting movie, fun movie.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Matt Lucas was also in the movie, and Bill Nighy. So
Interesting,
That's
good
two
cast.
Doctor Who names.
Yeah, it's a good cast.
Who watches Astro Boy when?
Tonight when I go to bed.
But going back to Doctor Who, what I love about Rory just sitting near the box is it's so fairy tale. That's the aesthetic of Series 5. It's a big old fairy tale, and nothing's more of a fairy tale than just a Roman soldier waiting for his girlfriend. And Stephen Moffat says if
You've
you
read
shot
some weird fairy tales.
and if you shot your Stephen Moffat said if you shot your wife, guarding her for 2,000 years would settle the score. Mowing the lawn won't cover it. Which, yeah, I mean, is fair enough.
Yeah. So the episode continues where Amy falls out of the Pandorica to meet her younger self, and they learn all about the Roman who waited and how he disappeared after the London bombings during World War II from saving the Pandorica from a fire, and he was never, ever, 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 ever seen again, and he will never be mentioned again, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, we learn this information from Nick Briggs, I believe, who makes a cameo as a rare non-alien in the Doctor universe. Although I guess you maybe
You don't know who did the
yeah,
narration.
you could consider this to be an alien. Maybe maybe it's a squib squab from the planet Squib Squabia. You know.
Hey, that's my favorite. That's my favorite alien. Yeah,
But
I love that one.
It's always fun where Nick Briggs gets to cameo as basically himself because he's just a voiceover narration guy, and I expect this museum person to be like, "Oh, for the love of stories." And also, Nick. Speaking of Nick Briggs cameoing as himself, he just appeared in the current 14th Doctor comic strip in Doctor Who magazine as himself. Basically, he's like a radio announcer or something, and he gets exterminated
Amazing.
by a Dalek.
Incredible. Is that the David Tennant adventures?
Yeah,
And
it's
the
part
is it-
11 of
what's-
12 just published. So
Oh shit!
If
I
you
gotta
want to
re-up my subscription to that service.
yeah, I should actually read what the fuck is going on in this comic because
I don't imagine. I've seen no one talk about it. That's the thing.
yeah.
So the only thing I've seen is stuff that you've sent me of like the furries and stuff.
Yeah, and also a Dalek is officiating a gay wedding or something. That's at one point.
Yeah.
Wait,
They were furries as well, weren't they? They were
I believe so.
animals. Weren't, yeah. Yeah. What a weird. I need to get Doctor Who magazine again. It's a really good magazine.
Yeah.
It's genuinely like a really good read. I really recommend it.
It's a really good magazine that I actually need to read someday. Because I have
it is. worth a read.
100. I have like 100 issues just sitting there, ready to be read, and I just never find the time for them. You know, there's too much
the-
Doctor Who going on.
There is. Although I think the issue with the magazine, right? Like, I get a book because I can read a book, I can put it in my bookshelf, and it looks all nice because, you know, they're big, thick, they've got lovely art on them and stuff like that. A magazine is so thin and so wide. Like, storing a magazine is a nightmare. It always looks messy. There's no neat way to store a magazine.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
I just shove them in the
It's-
cupboard.
That's it. It's you just like you have to hide the shame, like, and you don't want to throw it out. If like throwing it out or recycling it feels kind of wasteful because it's such high quality print and the art and the writing is so good, and maybe you want to go back to it later for reference or whatever. But you know, there's
Yes.
just no good way to store it.
That's the thing. I need to go through every issue and write down. Oh, this issue covers this episode. You know, for research for this show, because you know,
Yeah.
and I need to sit down and do that someday for more additional research. But I work full time. It's impossible.
Well, it's not. It's not possible. It would be possible if you subscribe to this channel. If you subscribe to this channel and supported us, then it would be possible. Thank you very much. Anyway, a Dalek appears. One of the stone Daleks is alive and saying "exterminate." And nice little detail. A little Amelia doesn't know what a Dalek is, and she's like, "What's that?" Because obviously she's had her mind wiped from the cracks in time, so she has no idea about aliens. Although also this is like a different timeline because the universe has exploded, so like maybe the aliens never existed. Anyway, it's a fun detail. And Amy runs in front, but then the Doctor comes running in. And he's like, "Wow, look, I'm the Doctor," and the Dalek's still like, "I'm going to kill you," until somebody holding a flashlight appears, and that person is about to be shot by the Dalek, and still the Doctor's like, "Oh, scan the weapon. You'll see there's no weapon there. It's just a torch or whatever." The Dalek scans it for some reason because the Dalek, why does the Dalek care? Like, the Dalek's going to murder them anyway. Why does the Dalek be like, "Oh, okay, shucks, I guess I'll scan it. Maybe you're being right." Like,
Because of plot specific purposes, you know.
Yeah.
The Dalek cares about what's happening in the plot. He doesn't want to get rid. He doesn't want to get in the way of what's going on in the script.
doesn't want to accidentally kill the main character.
But the Dalek coming back to life was a late idea because Stephen Moffat suddenly realized, oh shit, I forgot to write in a villain. So this is why the Dalek feels so last minute, is because he was last minute. And I don't think this episode needs a villain. I'm not sure, but at the same time, you
I
need
think
some
it's more.
suspense.
I don't know if you do, because I never believed the suspense. You know, like I it's a fun way to introduce Rory back into the scene. Like it's that's like the one benefit that the Dalek has appearing here, is it's a cool introduction to Rory where he shoots the Dalek with his Auton hand. But like I think a final of the season and there's no villain and it's just the Doctor being smart and fixing the universe is such a cool fucking finale.
Yeah.
You know, that's unlike any other finale we've had where there's like a mustache twirling villain being like, "Aha, the universe will be mine." You know, like this is just the Doctor being like, "Oh, everything's gone wrong, but don't worry, we're gonna fix it with my blue box, a sonic screwdriver, and this mop." Like, brilliant. That's all we need. That's a fantastic episode.
Yeah, and speaking of the Fez was just introduced into the plot for, you know, when the Doctor pops
An
back
amazing
up.
introduction. Yeah.
Yeah, when the Doctor pops up again without the Fez, audiences aren't confused, because if he didn't have the Fez at the beginning of the episode when he's talking to Rory and the dead Amy, you know, the Doctor coming back would be kind of confusing, but the fact he doesn't have a Fez in this scene, for the start of the scene anyway,
Yeah,
you know,
you see him pick up the Fez, so you know
Yeah.
we're about to continue on
Yeah,
and get
and
to
also-
the Doctor. It's a really good visual identifier.
Yeah, and also Stephen Moffat wanted people to be like, "Oh, now I get it." The moment he picks up his Fez, because it helps the audience understand what's actually happening more, because they're figuring it out before the characters figure it out. You know, it's really
Yeah,
smart writing.
And I also love the way that he gets the Fez as he walks into a mannequin and kind of stumbles to put it back, and the Fez falls into his hands. It's beautifully done. Some fantastic physical acting for Matt Smith.
Also, why does he pick up the mop again?
To lock the door from the Dalek.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he just he takes it with him on accident, and then he comes back and he's like, "Oops, sorry," and he locks the door with it. But Amy and Rory start making out because they haven't seen each other in 2,000 years.
And also Stephen Moffat is very horny once again.
Yeah, and also Amelia Pond is still here, by the way. They remind you of that. She has like 3 lines of dialogue that mean nothing, and don't worry, she'll be gone soon because Moffat realized that she didn't need to be there anymore as well. They escape the Dalek and they lock him away, as we said, and then we get the flash scene where he's traveling back in time, and then as an audience we're like, oh, of course, clap, clap, clap. I'm smart, even though the episode is telling us, but it makes you feel like you figured it out, you know?
I love this little sequence here because it's just a farce, you know? It's just Matt Smith bumbling around like an idiot. And in the original script, there wasn't originally going to be flashbacks, but the director thought the scene would be funnier this way. Just, you know, smash cut into Rory's confused face at Stonehenge, and then coming back to the main timeline. Although the thing is, this episode doesn't have Stonehenge in it. It's really strange. It's like
it's just a field. Yeah, they're just like next to Stonehenge. Stonehenge is off camera to the right. Like,
I guess they couldn't afford. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, they could only film at Stonehenge for one night, wasn't it?
But also, there was a fake Stonehenge. There was a foam henge.
I don't know. Maybe they took it down before they filmed this episode for whatever reason. But you know, we're doing this fun cutting back and forth thing, and he does the same for Amelia, where he like writes out the notes again for some reason. Even though he's got the handwritten notes, he decides to write them out again, which is such a weird thing to include.
Yeah, but if he used the handwritten...
I think it's so much more fun because you're like, when did he write that? like if he used the one that was already written, when did he write it? I think that's such a fun paradox. Like, did the writing just always on it? Like, I think that's great. But as we're getting through that fun stuff, and this is again just a brilliant piece of writing because you've lulled your audience into be like, oh, this is some fun like time travel stuff, and then boom, dead Matt Smith appears at the end, and you're like, oh wait, hang on, what? You know, the drama hits again. There's yet another twist on top of it, and just Moffat clapping his hands and giggling and kicking his feet.
A great stunt from a stunt actor falling down those stairs. It's a great stunt there.
Yeah.
And Matt Smith, the dead Matt Smith, leans up and gives the other Matt Smith a little kiss in the ear.
He does. He's like, but yeah, we weren't sure what he talked. Like, we couldn't remember. If he was talking about like he gets killed by the Dalek in this episode, or if he's talking about like next season, because I haven't seen next season in such a long time. But I'll be rewatching it soon. That's exciting.
But later on in like...
But yeah, he's like, they got shot by the Daleks, so...
Yeah, like 4 minutes... In 4 minutes, the Doctor's gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm about to be shot by a Dalek. It's okay.
Yeah, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it.
And also, again...
The Dalek...
There's a foreshadowing with the Dalek a little bit. Second episode in a row we've covered where the Doctor gets shot by a Dalek.
Yeah. I mean, when doesn't he? If a Dalek's there, it's going to shoot somebody. Might as well be the Doctor. But they all run up onto the roof where it is a bright evening, I guess. So that, you know, the sun is very orange and low in the sky. Except, of course, it's not the sun. It is the TARDIS exploding as the Doctor listens in through a big satellite dish. And he's got some really fun little quips here where, like, you know, Amy's, like, asking, like, what's happening or whatever. And he's like, the universe is, like, is no one listening to what I'm saying? He's just, again, the writing for Matt Smith and Matt Smith's performance, just fantastic Doctor. I absolutely adore him. He's so funny.
I mean, also Amy's like, oh, the TARDIS blew up and took the universe with it. How would that work? And the Doctor's like, I guess we'll find out later or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's the classic Stephen Moffat line of "I'll explain later," except the Doctor never explains later.
Don't need to. It doesn't need explaining. But also, what I liked about this scene is it establishes the TARDIS as this powerful, insane thing. You know, like when it dies, it causes a lot of destruction, and like it's like a world-ending moment. But in this, you know, it's not it's a world-saving moment in that it's saving the Earth. But you know, it's this big violent thing. It's not something to take lightly, which of course is something that will stay true in Doctor Who. For the rest of canon.
Oh yeah, the Doctor would never have a bunch of Daleks inside an exploding TARDIS. You know?
No.
Fucking
Well, I mean, it wasn't imploding TARDIS, wasn't it? It collapsed on itself.
True, okay. But still.
But still, the TARDIS is a living thing, and so is all those Daleks that he crushed. But like,
Super cool.
yeah, it was still a bad scene. But well, we also find out that River Song is trapped in a time loop because the TARDIS is saving her from the time loop. But then she gets out of it like immediately, so don't worry about that.
Yeah,
she's here now.
The Doctor teleports on the TARDIS and says, "Hi, honey, I'm home."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Well, you took your time," which is a great line.
I love them together. I absolutely love the River. I love the River Song stories so much as well. Like the River Song stories is probably one of my favorites in Doctor Who.
What I love about Stephen Moffat and what I love about this episode is Stephen Moffat actually plays with the fact this show is a time travel show, because a lot of other episodes, a lot of other showrunners would only write the show as, oh yeah, the time travel is a plot device.
We go back in time and we're out. Or we go to the future and now we've stepped out.
Yeah, it's more of a setting than an actual physical thing that could, you can tell a story with. And I don't think any other showrunner or writer ever writes time travel in that way. They kind of do, because Smith and Jones, the first episode of Series 3, when the Doctor first meets Martha, or rather, when Martha first meets the Doctor, it's the Doctor from the future who shows Martha his tie, because he wanted to prove that he could time travel. So it does pop up here and there, but it's never integral to the plot.
I was about to say in Blink it happens as well, but that was a Moffat episode.
Yeah.
I guess it happens in Father's Day a little bit, when they go back on themselves and just break all the rules of time in that non-canon episode.
Yeah, where are the Time Reapers in this episode? I guess it's because the universe is ending.
Yeah, I guess if the universe ends, the Time Reapers also would die. But yeah, it doesn't make. Don't worry about that.
I mean, the Doctor reboots the universe, so the Time Reapers maybe never existed in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're going to save the universe, you might as well genocide someone while you're at it. That is his favorite pastime.
Also, the thing I just noticed is, doing research for this episode is River Song's outfit in this episode is inspired by both Han Solo and Princess Leia, which is such a great combination. I really like it.
Yeah, that's fun. Han Solo and Princess Leia. Imagine if they ever had a kid in Star Wars. I wonder what.
Unironically, the best thing about the sequels. Adam Driver.
The only thing worth.
Adam Driver
worth
is incredible,
watching.
even though the character himself is kind of iffy sometimes.
I think, I think he's the most compelling character in the sequels, and that's entirely driven by Adam Driver. Driven by Adam Driver. I didn't even mean that. Because he's so compelling in that role, and it's such a interesting conflict for a character to have. Because he's got a history, and he's tied in with the characters that we know and love who went through a similar turmoil that he seems to be going through. It really feels like he should be the main character of the sequels, doesn't it? Like, I think it would be such an interesting take if it was focused on him, and we see more of the First Order and the dark side, and it's a story of going from dark to light across 3 episodes. Like that would have just been fascinating.
Episode 8 is the closest to him being a main character. The subplot between him and Luke Skywalker, just really great stuff. I really like that arc.
You're gonna get doxxed.
I'm sorry.
You're going to upset Star Wars fans they will dox you.
Oh dear! For saying episode 8 is the best of the trilogy.
8 is good. Yes. Even though it undoubtedly is. But time will prove us right. In 5 to 10 years, everybody will be saying what we're saying.
I mean, you can at least agree it's better in episode 9, where we didn't really know. We didn't know. Didn't really know. We didn't know where we were going. Like, what the fuck was that?
It's really great. It's like you get to watch them make it up as they go along.
like just the opening 5 minutes alone with Kylo Ren on that planet, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, somehow Palpatine has returned. And it's like, none of this was hinted towards in the last 2 movies. What the fuck is going on? It's just out of the blue. It's like the last 2 movies never existed.
Yeah, that's true. But also they fly now.
Except they've always been able to fly.
It's the worst line. It's the worst line in that.
Yeah, we even used it as a thumbnail like 10 episodes ago.
Oh yeah, God, how was that 10 episodes ago? But anyway, back to this episode. A Dalek appears and starts chasing them through the sky. Actually, before that.
Yeah, I was about to say.
River destroys the Doctor's fez. In a ruthless, unforgivable act of sadism, where she sees the Doctor. He's like, "Look at my cool fez. Fezzes are cool. I wear a fez now," which is, just iconic Matt Smith line. And she grabs it, throws it into the sky, and blasts it into oblivion. And I stopped liking River Song as a person.
She's also the reason for the Dalek for finding them, If they could have survived this moment if River Song didn't shoot that gun. Because the minute she shoots that gun, the Dalek pops up. So, but also, this scene was written apparently because when Stephen Moffat was like, oh yeah, I'll give Matt Smith a fez in this episode, and the other producers were like, oh, don't. That's a bad idea. Matt Smith is only going to get so attached to his fez and want it in every episode now. And Stephen Moffat was like, oh, don't worry about it. I killed it off in the next scene. So that's the only reason why the fez gets destroyed, because Matt Smith might get too attached to it. And apparently
I would have loved him to have a fez in every episode.
It's such a great... It completes the look, you know what I mean?
It does. It does. It's like the cherry on top of the look. It just fits him perfectly. And, I feel like everybody working on the show agreed that, because the fez comes back. It becomes an iconic staple, and he wears it every now and then. Even when Clara becomes a companion, he pops on a fez every now and then, because it's superb, and I love it.
Yeah, I've just never seen a fez fit a person as well as Matt Smith.
He's just got the face for it, doesn't it? It just fits him. Like, he just puts it on. You're like, damn, that suits you. No one else can pull off that hat except you. Like, anyway, they get chased by a Dalek through some stairs and stuff.
Sorry.
And then
there's also the line where River Song gets extremely horny because she remembers she had a plastic boyfriend.
She had sex with an Auton. Yeah.
And when I was watching this episode, like 10 minutes before this happens, I'm like, oh, Stephen Moffat hasn't written a line about how beneficial a plastic boyfriend would be to Amy. And then 10 minutes later, this happens, and I'm like, oh, I was almost about to compliment Stephen Moffat for being restrained here, but, this classic corny Stephen Moffat strikes again.
I love how he writes. What a brain. But then, after they run away from the Dalek, Matt Smith has got extremely... Like, it feels like he's channeling the online Doctor Who fandom when he's just rambling. He's like, how would the Dalek come back if it's in the universe where Daleks never existed, and through the Pandorica brought Amy back, but how would it bring back all this blah blah blah? And it basically makes the connection that there's life inside the Pandorica, and that life, it can be cloned and put into this universe where the universe never existed, and essentially birth the universe back into existence, because some of the particles from the old universe are trapped inside the Pandorica. But also, the entire Earth is here, so isn't all of the Earth particles from the universe that it doesn't exist anymore, because the Earth still exists but nothing else does? Because the Earth was saved by the exploding TARDIS. So couldn't you use all the particles on the Earth to say? I don't know. It don't make. It's just some jargon to make the episode make sense, really, isn't it?
Even Stephen Moffat's like, none of this makes any sense. I just want to have some fun. And, that's the way. Because when I was an edgy teenager, when I was like 13, 14, 15, etc., I was like, none of this makes any sense.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
I mean, mainly in 13 to 16, I guess. I was really critical of Doctor Who because I realized, oh, none of this makes any sense. I want Doctor Who to make sense. But as I grow older, I'm like, I'm kind of more into the childlike innocence of Doctor Who doesn't have to make sense. It's just fun, you know? Have some fun.
Yes. I've always been on the fun train. I've never once gotten unhappy at Doctor Who not making sense. Like there's been moments where I feel like it's undermined itself. Like specifically like when Clara dies and they're like, aha, but actually she didn't die. She gets to live forever. The moment before she died, time traveling through into a fucking diner. I was like, that's dumb and makes her death not have impact. But,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I go back and I do go back and forth on this show. It's so strange because now that you mention that, there's so many moments where it's like, but it's more of the emotional moments where, you know, when it's undermining what could have been such a great emotional moment.
Yeah.
But you know, in this instance, it's just having fun with itself. It's just being like,
that's it.
We're a
This
silly
is
show. We're having fun.
This is a fun, silly time travel adventure where the Doctor's like, I'm going to save the universe by using nonsense, and it works, and it's brilliant, and it's lots of fun to watch with because there's, you know, the emotional impact is Amy and Rory's relationship, and then them getting married at the end, and yay, lovely happiness. It's not killing off a character. Because that character got too big for her boots and was like, I'm the Doctor actually, and then learned a lesson that cost her her life, but then it turns out that lesson was actually true because she essentially gets to become the Doctor, traveling through before she dies. But it doesn't matter. I like Clara now. It's fine. We then get a really good scene with the Dalek and River Song, where, you know, like River Song shoos everybody else awake. She's going to fight the Dalek, and the Dalek's like, I'm going to kill you, and River Song's like, nah, I'm going to shoot you right in your eye. And the Dalek's like, what? Nah, don't you said you work with the Doctor. You show mercy. And she's like, nah, I'm River Song though. That was just have like we've got some really cool Dutch angles as we're pushing in on both of them, and the Dalek is just saying mercy over and over again, and it's so fucking fascinating to see a Dalek say mercy. You know, that's such a cool thing to see.
Yeah, I really enjoy this scene, even though it kind of makes the Daleks less scary because there's nothing.
Daleks are always less scary.
I know, but it makes the Daleks less scary because all you need is somebody with a gun and just shoot him in the eye. That's all you need to destroy a Dalek. Okay.
But only if their shields are down because they're made of stone. Like, this is a very specific circumstance. She makes a point. She's like, but your shield is like down. If I fire this neutrino blast, it'll blow up your eye socket. But yeah, I think it's cool. And then they come back down to the stairs where the dead Doctor was, but the dead Doctor isn't there anymore. And we then get the line from River Song being like, by the way, rule one of the Doctor always lies, which is something that they come back to a lot next season.
And it gets to the point where it's very irritating because whenever there's some mild inconsistency with the show, even like it even gets retconned.
A wizard did it. Yeah.
You know, like, oh, how could the Doctor be 450 years old in this episode when he's at 400 the next episode?
Yeah, he's just lying about his age. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just lying. And then, you know, when every discussion online about Doctor Who could settle down to, oh yeah, the Doctor just lies, it gets boring. You know, and it feels like a cheap device to just get out from jail free, because if you want to write something that doesn't if you want to write something that contradicts a previous episode, you could just be like, oh yeah, I lied about this. You know,
or is he lying now? You know, that's although I think it helps add mystery back to the Doctor a little bit. You know, where it's like, oh, what if you're never telling the truth? Like, why are you lying? You're like this weird compulsive liar nerd. But because at this point we're series 5 already of brand new Doctor Who. We've gone into the Doctor's lore quite a bit. We're going to go real into the Doctor's lore in the next 5 seasons. in the next like 7-8 seasons even. You know, and having it be like, oh, maybe everything the Doctor tells you isn't true is a pretty way of keeping you being like, ooh, this is keeping me guessing. That's why I was so excited by like the time like the name of the Doctor and stuff came up, because I was like, oh Christ, I'm going to learn out more about the Doctor. God, everything's so fascinating. I want to know everything about him. And then you know, Chibnall was like, oh, you want to learn everything about him? Well,
I'll have all the flashbacks in the world. You know.
Yeah. And by the way, you're just left with more questions, and they're not good questions.
Oh, what a nightmare. I'm so we're covering Fugitive of the Jadoon soon, which kind of is the first episode to open these cans of worms, so I'm interested to see how it holds up now that we kind of have a resolution to a lot of the plot points of that episode. Going back to your point about the Doctor kind of being a little trickster in this episode, I would say. It kind of reminds me of...
a little sneaky boy.
You know, a little sneaky boy. It kind of reminds me of... Sylvester McCoy's Doctor more than anything, because even in Remembrance of the Daleks, which we just covered, he is a very tricky boy, you know, which I really like. You bring up a good point. I really like that mysterious side to the Doctor. Just, you don't need to reiterate that the Doctor lies all the time, you know. Maybe just have him manipulate people now and again. That's all you really need.
Yeah. It's, you know, it's just... It's like, oh wait, there's like layers to you. Like, you know, it's like the outside is I'm a fun, goofy guy, and then the inside is the entire history of time. You know, like that's gonna mess you up a little bit. Like, so I such a fascinating character. Love him.
But also, speaking of time messing up with you, in this episode, Rory is completely fine after living 2,000 years in isolation.
He's made of plastic. Made of plastic. Plastic don't degrade. That's forever juice.
But also, his brain is completely fine. He's not gone insane or anything.
Does he have a brain?
I guess.
Do Autons have brains?
I mean, is he really an
I guess
Auton
he is an Auton in flesh, but I guess he's just possessed by the ghost of Rory. I guess is what's happening.
Yeah, because Rory kind of acknowledges this episode later on. He's not.
He's got plastic ears. He says.
It's strange. It's really strange.
I guess we are looking at the mannequin body of Rory possessed by the ghost of dead Rory, who's taking control of the body away from the Nestine consciousness. That is the only thing I can understand. But also he's got like full flesh and blood. Like he's like top notch plastic. Like it's exact same as real life.
It is kind of a shame that Rory being an Auton doesn't get explored next season, because obviously the universe reboots after this episode. But there's some interesting stuff to go with, like what we discussed earlier about the whole Astro Boy kind of thing. There's some interesting stuff to explore with Rory as an Auton in Series 6, but instead they wind up just killing him every
again.
Episode.
Oh yeah.
He dies like 5 times next season.
Yeah. But, you know, like he fulfills that Captain Jack role, doesn't he?
I guess.
Yeah, Captain Jack comes back, you've got to kill him because he's immoral.
Well, he isn't. Well, Rory isn't immortal.
Yeah, but he's essentially immortal, you know. He's died more times than you can count.
He's immortal in our hearts.
He's immortal until he met those weeping angels, am I right?
Also, you also just mentioned the phrase New Who. What do we call New Who now that it's almost 20 years old? Like,
to me, it will always be New Who until they cancel the show and reboot it, and then it will be called New Who. But, you know, so you get classic Who, New Who, New Who, New Who, New Who, New Who. I don't know how new doesn't sound like a word anymore.
Yeah, I guess you could just say Modern Who. Modern Who makes more sense to me now, because
Modern Who is not as fun to say as New Who. New Who sounds like You Who. It's a silly word.
You have a good point there. Matthew wins this argument yet again. You.
The episode continues as River locks up Matt Smith into the Pandorica. And he's like half dead or half asleep or whatever it is. And
Same
she's
thing.
figuring... Yeah, she's figuring out what the plan is. The plan is to launch the Pandorica into the exploding TARDIS, and that will send the particles of the universe across into every timeline and then restore the universe. But Matt Smith has to be in the Pandorica for a reason, and then that will kill him but save everybody, basically, is the plan. I don't remember why Matt Smith had to be in the thing and why they can't just throw the box at the sun, but he has to be in it for reasons.
Yeah, he gets a raise from existence, essentially, which is cool. It's cool. We'll talk about it more later, obviously, but... there are some key conversations between River Song and the Doctor, and then the Doctor and Amy here.
Yeah, the Doctor and Amy scene is fantastic, I think, because he makes her cry. Where he's talking to her and he's like, do you know why I came to you, Amy? It wasn't the reason I said before. It was because your life doesn't make sense, you know? Like, where's your mum? You don't have a mum. Where's your dad? You don't have a dad. You live with your auntie who we never see, you know? Like, you got this huge-ass house, and it turned the crack in your wall has been, like, eating at your life without you even realizing it for forever and ever and ever, and I needed to save you. You know, I'm gonna die doing that.
The way you described that made it sound like the Doctor is just bullying her. You don't have a mum, you don't have a dad, and that's why she cries. You have an auntie that doesn't care about you.
That's pretty much exactly how he does it. And then right at the end, as Amy's crying, he goes psych as the doors close, and he launches off into space, and it's very funny. You know, he's like, you can't believe you're crying over me, Amy. Guess what? Gotcha, haha, as he zooms off, because obviously the Doctor's like, I'll get a way out of this, you know, like, this is part of my big plan.
Yeah, there's also one line in here that I think is a line that wasn't needed for Stephen Moffat to write, where the Doctor's like, I'm going to create a Big Bang too, and
the
Rory's
Big Bang, the thing that started the universe.
And it's like, you didn't need to say that, Rory, but I guess, you know, if a little kid is watching and doesn't know what the Big Bang is, but...
Yeah, I'm sure it was a fun conversation for, like, a 4-year-old if they had, like, a really religious parent. You know, it's just Moffat stepping ahead of it. And trying to stop as many Ofcom complaints as possible. You know, save the my kid asked me about the creation of the universe. I didn't want this to happen in the show. You know, and so instead the kid asking, he gets that question answered immediately before he can even think about it. And then Matt Smith sends off one last message on this little texting device thing that he has for some reason. I don't even know what it is. It also a thing that I love about Series 5 Doctor Who props. It's the same with the guns. It's the same with this scanning device River Song has, and like everything. It all looks fake. It all looks extremely fake. You know, there's this intangibility where it's like that doesn't look like it's metal or has any weight or functions in any way. Like it's brilliant. Everything just looks like toys.
It's like when we covered Class at the beginning of the year, and the weapons in Class just look fake as well. It looks like she went down to Toys R Us or something. It's like it's something that's recurring in Doctor Who, you know, but you know, it's Doctor Who. It's cheap, you know. Well, at least there's no wobbly props in this episode.
Yes, the only thing that is wobbly is the time. It's all wibbly and wobbly. There's the Pandorica then flies into the exploding TARDIS, and we get a pretty cool effect of it exploding out and then reversing in as we like flash back through scenes until eventually the Doctor wakes up on the TARDIS, alive and well, and he's like, "Oh, thank God, I'm alive and well," and then the episode ends. No, we continue on as he then realizes that he's like back in his own timeline, looking at himself like a Force ghost, and he sees the Doctor and Amy dressed up, ready to go on their trip to Space Florida.
Which is literally my favorite line of this episode. The idea of Space Florida being a thing. Like, I guess Barcelona is also a planet. So is
Barcelona is a planet, yeah.
is space Florida a planet, or is it a satellite system, or who knows?
These are good questions.
And
I like that, when they named the planet Barcelona, they were like, we'll just call this Barcelona. But for Florida, they were like, people need to know it's in space. Otherwise, they'll get lost. It's space Florida.
So I went to TARDIS Wiki to see if you ever actually do go to space Florida in expanded media. And according to the wiki, the Doctor and Amy later visit Space Florida again, this time with Amy's husband, Rory Williams. However, Rory only held the coat and drank an orange juice while watching the Doctor and Amy dance. That's a constant theme in Series 6. Rory is always being cucked.
Yeah. That's kind of his position. I mean, that's like his character trait, though, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That's his defining trait as a person.
Which is kind of annoying because that was the whole thing with Mickey Smith. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But
it's very similar dynamic going on. You're right.
Yeah, one feature that the Doctor gives Space Florida here is that it has automatic sand, and the beach having automatic sand was originally going to be used by Stephen Moffat in his episode Silence in the Library, but the scene was cut short, so this is him reusing his idea again, because I guess he just thought, sand? Space Florida? I hate sand.
Automatic sand is a very funny line that I understand why he wanted to keep it in, because it's nonsense. It's a nonsense line. Like, what's manual sand? What's the difference between automatic and manual sand?
I mean, automatic sand cleans up rubbish, which sounds like an ideal kind of world, because, I've went.
But what does it do with it? What does it do with the rubbish?
Feeds it to an alien, I guess.
Okay.
I'm sure there's aliens who eat rubbish, right? This is all my idea of what happens, but I'm sure there's aliens who eat rubbish, right?
No. In the there's no alien that eats rubbish.
Well, there could be,
No, there's not. There's not. No aliens ever in the history of anything will ever eat rubbish. Impossible.
I mean, like Slimer from the Ghostbusters. Nope. I know he's a ghost, but he could...
doesn't. Yeah, the ghost isn't an alien.
But
You'd see,
also,
ghosts love rubbish.
But also, Slimer isn't a human, so he could be alien.
He is. He's just like a gross guy. He's like a gross guy.
He's also kind of like a dog, I guess.
Yeah, he's like whatever, he's a guy. He's a dude.
He's a guy. He's a dude.
He's not an alien.
Because
he eats rubbish.
Obviously, this is the Doctor going into his own timeline, and the idea of a person's time stream being thrown into reverse was posed in the 1972 book from Making of Doctor Who by Malcolm Hulke and Terence Dix, which I think is a reference to this, which is cool. I've read that book. It's also where the Doctor's name comes from, his alien writing name, where it's just symbols or whatever.
Just symbols. Yeah.
So a lot of canon comes from this book, which is quite cool.
That is quite cool. He then flashes through to the Weeping Angel episode and listens in, and we get to see the fun scene between the Doctor and Amy again, where the Doctor's like, "Hey, I need you to trust me. Okay, bye."
Yeah, there's also...
and then
he also jumps back to Amy Pond leaving the letter for James Corden or something. And we briefly see James Corden getting headbutted, which I like.
Yeah, it's very good. But
a scene from the Angels episode was shot by the director of the Angel episode, obviously, Adam Smith, which is interesting because that was the first episode to be filmed. So this is a very inexperienced Matt Smith who's just still trying to figure out the role versus Matt Smith in this episode where he's kind of more familiar with the role here, which is interesting to see the two things meet.
Yeah, I think he's decent in the Angels episode. It's like a inconsistent quality of an episode. I think part 1 is better than part 2, or part 2 is better than part 1. One of them was better than the other one, as is always the case.
I mean, in the Angel episode, there's a point where the Doctor walks up to Amy again and he has his coat on, versus the fact that the Doctor in the episode doesn't have his coat on, and people thought this was a continuity issue. But, it turns out this was the plan all along in this episode, which is kind of wild that a continuity issue can turn out to be just a plot point, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. A fun, neat little detail. And then we cut to the first episode of the 11th hour again with little Amelia Pond sleeping in the dirt, where the Doctor picks her up
Where
and
she
takes her to bed.
belongs.
This is after... Yeah, this is after he's abandoned her, saying, oh, I need to fix the TARDIS back in 2 seconds. And he gets a really long, it's kind of sad monologue to Amelia about, like, oh, I'm going to go into the cracks in time, I'm just going to become a memory, I'm not going to have ever existed, etc., etc. It's really well performed, and, like, Matt Smith is, I think, the best Doctor at monologues. I think. Capaldi had some really good ones. His war speech famously.
Because Matt Smith is acting towards nothing here except for a little girl who's pretending to be asleep, but apparently she wound up falling asleep on set. So
incredible.
If you're filming a scene where you're just lying there and sleeping all the time, it does make sense.
You're
when
lying
you would end
there,
up
you're
being
sleeping all the
asleep.
time, you're in pajamas, you're in your bed, you're like, you get cozy, you're like, oh, this is nice. Like,
even though maybe 6 men are staring at you with cameras and lights.
That's how I sleep. Do you not sleep like that?
But to prepare for this scene, apparently Matt Smith got into the emotional mindset by listening to Johnny Cash's "Hurt," which is a good song if you want to feel depressed.
Sad song indeed. Yeah. Excuse me. But then, like, Amy wakes up and the sun comes up and it's daytime, and then suddenly we're watching the movie Big as Amelia has grown up into Amy Pond overnight.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Or 13 grown up 30.
Yeah. But no, we've jumped forward in time, and now we meet Amy's mum. And yeah, I had a point here that I was going to bring up on the episode, because she brings in breakfast in bed for Amy. There's 2 points I want to bring up, actually. First point, breakfast in bed is not as good as it's made out to be.
Oh God, tell me about it.
It's made out to be this luxurious, oh, I get to have breakfast in my bed, this is so nice, and what it ends up being is I have crumbs in my blankets.
I feel like we've discussed this in the show before, but one time when I was maybe 8 or 9, I was just at a sleepover at a friend's house, and I was obviously in a sleeping bag because there was no more beds in the house, but I ended up having pancakes, syrup pancakes, and I stupidly ate it in my sleeping bag, and I got the syrup all over somehow. I don't even know how. And so the rest of the night I just slept in stickiness. It was great.
Incredible. Yeah, that sounds awful. That sounds like a nightmare. But yeah, I don't mind a hot drink, like a coffee in bed in the morning. That's nice. That's because if I spill the coffee, it's okay. I'm just going to clean the sheets. I'll be very aware that I spilled coffee on myself. But having to have toast or cereal or any other food that's crumbly and gross, and you don't want that in your bed. It's not worth it. Just get out of bed. Just get out of bed and have your breakfast. That's much better. It's much better.
And apparently the actress who plays Amy's mum here did spill the drink on the bed.
Incredible,
apparently.
yeah.
So
yeah. Yeah, see, breakfast in bed sucks. Why do people want it? Why is it made out to be this glorious thing? It's not a glorious thing. Also, Amy's mum is like, your dad made this, so sorry if it's messed up and awful. You're welcome to throw it out. It's cereal. It's a bowl of cereal and orange juice.
And also coffee, maybe?
Yeah,
There's also
maybe a
another cup
hot
there,
beverage. Yeah,
but-
yeah. But why would you tip it out the window? How do you mess up cereal? I guess he's just that bad of a cook.
Oh, it's like that episode of The Simpsons where Homer Simpson tries to make cereal for Mr. Burns and
Yeah,
it ends up on
catches
fire.
Yeah. But then we meet Amy's dad, who is Danny DeVito.
A
and
tall
it's-
Danny DeVito, but still very short.
Yeah. And I really like him. I like him a lot more than I like the mum character.
Mm-hmm.
I especially like that he's called Augustus. What a weird name to give him.
That's a German name, or
Yeah.
'cause I keep on thinking of Augustus Gloop from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That's the only time I've heard the name Augustus.
There's probably a Roman emperor called Augustus.
Maybe, who cares? But also, I just want more of Amy's parents, because we're only here for like 8 minutes.
The last bit of this episode, never see or hear of them again.
Yeah, like Amy never mentions them again, which is really strange. I guess that's just Moffat not really being interested in the family stuff, and he's all right. He's fine. It's all right to do that. It's his take on Doctor. He doesn't care about the family stuff, but would be nice to just revisit Amy's parents.
We really see how little he cares about the family stuff in this next scene as we cut to the wedding, and they're all sitting at the table, and it's Amy's dad, Amy, Rory, Amy's mum, and Rory's dad doesn't exist. He's not invited to the wedding.
I do wonder if there's a reference to that when Rory's dad actually does pop up. I don't remember, but
I don't remember if they mentioned like, oh, sorry, I was on like holiday or something during the wedding.
Yeah, but
like, I was away on the other side of the.
It would be a weird thing to bring up out of nowhere. Like, how do you fit that one in?
Yeah.
But we've recently seen this wedding hall in the wedding of Sarah Jane Smith.
Oh,
It's
it's the same
wedding hall,
venue.
yeah. And also it was
Wow.
in the Torchwood episode Something Borrowed. So whenever there's a wedding in Doctor Who, this is always the venue we use.
Must be cheap. Because then Amy begins to cry, and Rory's like, "Oh, are you crying because you're so happy?" This is after she spots River Song out the window. He's like, "Are you crying because you're so happy?" And Amy's like, "No, I'm really sad." And Rory's like world shatters. He just becomes a broken man, and it's beautifully performed by oh my God, what's his name?
Arthur Derville, yeah.
Arthur Derville, yes, I know his name.
Yeah, his performance is so great in this little scene where he's just like, oh God, like she already regrets the wedding.
Yeah, we're still at the wedding.
And according to Arthur DeVille, shooting this scene was very strange because it felt like he was at a wedding. He was gate crashing a wedding, but it was also his wedding, kind of. It must be weird as an actor to be in these scenarios.
Yeah. Although, Rory does have that, almost that exact line when later on when Amy's in the TARDIS and she's like, "Oh, it's my wedding day," and then Rory's like, "Our wedding."
Yeah, Amy's really self-centered, isn't she?
She is. Yeah, she is. But she starts to remember because she was gifted the blue River Song's diary of the Doctor's life or whatever it is that we first see in the Silence of the Library, and we then see every single episode that River's in after that. And that starts Amy to remember who the Doctor is and basically will him back into existence is what she does. She becomes a god and creates the Doctor back into the universe by remembering that he exists. Where was Clara for that one?
Yeah, it's extremely sentimental. It's like James Corden defeating the Cybermen by crying about his son because he hears his son crying in the other room. It's very sentimental. It's sweet, though. It's a miracle. It's what Rory talks about at the beginning of the episode. It's a miracle to what happens. It's fine.
Yeah. And the reveal of the TARDIS appearing in the center of this wedding venue is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Like the build up to it, the glasses starting to rumble, the like wind rising, the music rising with it. It's awesome. It's a genuinely like this. It feels like a, oh my god, yes! Like this is like a hero moment. Like our hero has returned. It feels fantastic to watch. It's beautifully done.
It's been a long time since we've seen, I guess not that long, but it's a long time since there's been an emphasis on the fact that the TARDIS arrives and there's so much wind, you know, there's something magical about the fact that the TARDIS creates wind. It's really cool. It's what we kind of talked about
fart.
in Father's Day, I believe. Or
yeah, it made everybody fart. Yeah. But there's also, then when Matt Smith appears, he's all dressed up in the wedding because, of course, he knew Amy would remember him. He planted the seed by being like, hey, remember me because I'll be a memory when I die. I'll be a memory. Memory. He yelled it into Amelia's ear before he walked into the crack. But he's dressed up, ready for the wedding, and he greets Rory by saying, hello, Mr. Pond. And Rory's like, that's not how it works. And the doctor's like, yes, it is. And he's like, yeah, you're right. Because,
Amy immediately wants to kiss the doctor.
It's like, shag me right now, shag me, doctor, take me here on the floor in front of everybody.
Which is something I've always been annoyed by with the Amy Doctor storyline, where the Doctor and Amy are kind of romantically involved because, you know, the night before her wedding, Amy's kissing
she was
the
like,
Doctor.
Shag me. She was straight up like, shag me again. Then at the wedding, she's like, shag me. And then at the end of this episode, she's like, shag me. But yeah, I think they tone it down in the next season. I know by season 7, it's definitely like there's no romantic feelings between them.
I feel like there's a conversation next season where Rory is like, I can't remember what episode it could have been. I think it might have been The Girl Who Waited. I'm not sure. Or it's an episode where Rory discusses the fact that he feels like the third wheel in this relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they do tone it down. It gets better. But I agree. I'm not a fan of Amy wanting to shag the Doctor 24/7.
Yeah.
It feels kind of yucky.
Especially when the Doctor wants nothing to do with it. Even when
he's like, no thanks.
even when Amy is kissing him at the end of episode 2, I believe it is, he's like, I don't want nothing to do with this. Get me out of this. Like, yeah. It's
I mean,
really
even when
weird.
River kisses him, kisses him, he's like, I don't want this to happen. Stop kissing me.
Yeah, as a kid, Rory and Amy get married after everything we went through this season, from Rory being erased from history and then Rory almost killing Amy. It was really magical for them to finally get married. And I remember at the time I changed my profile picture to one of the photo shoots of Amy, the Doctor, and Rory together in the wedding outfits, which I was
dork.
I was actually really
you dork.
I treated this like a royal wedding. Doctor Who magazine was even wedding themed around this time. I remember this.
Amazing.
Like the whole magazine was just about their wedding for like maybe 20 pages or something. It was great.
That is great. That's brilliant. The Doctor then dances at the wedding as well, and he's got some fantastic dance moves. I'm a big fan of the GIF one with his arms in the air.
Yeah,
like
which I believe is described as the drunk giraffe, and
which is an apt description.
And he also dances to Queen, which makes me very happy. I love Queen in this show.
Yeah. Then we get a kind of a strange scene. It's like sweet, like there's like music with lyrics playing, which is really strange for Doctor Who, as Amy and Rory are slow dancing, and then it doesn't feel like Doctor Who anymore. It feels like we've been watching like a teen rom-com thing. Matt Smith is watching on from the side, and he's like, oh, you finally got the girl, Rory. Good on you, mate. Like, he's been the school bully that's been like the Chad the whole time, but then the last episode he had a change of heart and he helped Rory get the girl of his dreams, and now he's going to go off and he's going to throw his fist in the air and freeze frame as the Breakfast Club music plays.
Yeah, I agree with you. It does feel like that. I do wonder if that's Moffat trying to get across the attempt at the Doctor is just going to go off with his life now. He's going to leave Amy and Rory behind to live happily ever after, and he's just going to go off and leave them behind. But obviously, run off.
They have other plans.
They conveniently know where the TARDIS is being parked, just outside Amy's house, which I guess. Where is the wedding venue?
Maybe they like they're not that far behind the Doctor. Maybe they just followed him out. Maybe they were like, "Wow, the Doctor just said good on you, mate," really loudly. Where's he going?
Well, my point is, why didn't the Doctor park closer to the venue? I guess it's because the Doctor can't control where he parks.
Yeah, they'd just be happy he arrived on time.
The venue is like 2 hours away. You know,
he's just on the bus for ages. Yeah, but the Doctor's about to go into the TARDIS, and he bumps into River Song again and gives her back the Vortex Manipulator, and they have a really, really, really fun conversation that I loved as a teenager. As an adult, I'm like, this is kind of like, you know, smirky too much for me to enjoy it as much as I used to, but it's still a really fun scene where, you know, River is like, oh yeah, you know, we'll meet again at some point, and the Doctor's like, hey, are we gonna get married or are we already married or whatever, and you know, River just keeps saying yes to both options that she's been given, and it's just, I love the River story so much. That's the main thing. I just love the River story. I think it's brilliant, you know.
What I loved about this scene as a kid was the fact it sets up for future seasons, because, you know, when Russell T Davies wraps up his seasons, it always feels like there's no loose endings. Everything's wrapped up in a nice little package, you know. Like I know he does cliffhangers, but they're not important to the main plot of, you know, storylines that are.
Yeah, it's like,
on.
the Titanic's in the TARDIS now. Yeah.
But here there's a lot of hints at future storylines with his silence and the River Song storyline, which made me excited for future episodes as a kid, which is a good thing, obviously, because
yes,
the thing is with Moffat, with Russell T Davies episodes, maybe they felt too closed. Maybe they just felt, you know, because, you know, at the end of Doomsday, you could maybe just not watch the show anymore, and you just have a complete story.
Yeah. I mean, that's also, you know, the issue with End of Time, isn't it? You know, it's a complete, this is the Doctor Who is over now, the end of the show. But yeah, I do like this open-ended, and also like there's multiple different things that have been set up, because we still don't know what the silence is. Like the silence is still this lingering background threat, which we go into next series, which is the build up to the reveal of the silence is so goddamn good. Like when they first show up, they're so scary. You know, they're such a good villain.
Yeah, and then let's pretend we never show up again. Just those first 2 episodes of the next season.
Yeah, and then they just immediately fucking pull the rug out from underneath themselves. Yeah, I think that's a large issue with the Moffat era, is like concluding things never feels right. It always feels either over-explained or copped out or like cheapened. It's like Clara's death, the silence, you know, all these different things where it's like Amy and Rory's death, you know, like even that, where it's like their death is perfect and beautiful, but also there was this fucking giant Statue of Liberty thing in this episode. Why?
Yeah, he also had trouble ending like all the Matt Smith storylines. It's just wrapped up in the Christmas episode, but the Christmas episode also has to be a Christmas episode, so we spent a lot of time with Matt Smith being naked, and then, you know, there's the whole thing with Clara's gran, and it's just so much in that episode that really didn't need to be there. I can't remember what the fuck the silence were in the end. Like I don't know.
They're like a religion, aren't they? They're like a big religion cult. Yeah.
There's more to it in the time of the Doctor that gets explained.
Yeah.
But it's all mumbo jumbo because it's Stephen Moffat trying to wrap everything up in 60 minutes.
It's been a long time since I've seen The Time of the Doctor, but I remember enjoying it as a kid when it came out, and when I was like, I don't know, like 17, 15, 16. When did he regenerate?
Oh God,
13?
You can't
God, was I 13?
You can't have been 16, 17.
No, 13. I would have been 13. Yeah, Christ. Because yeah. Oh my God, it's 2013 he regenerated. God damn.
10 years ago.
No, thank you. It wasn't that long ago.
It's crazy how
It
fast
wasn't-
time goes.
Matt Smith's regeneration is halfway through this show's run.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, see, like he regenerates in series 7. Series 14 is about to come out. That's insane.
I know.
Oh my god. But anyway, yeah, they have a really fun conversation where Amy Riversong basically just teases out the future. Matt Smith goes into the TARDIS ready to take off before Amy comes in after him, being like, "Let's have sex right now." Immediately followed by Rory, who's like, "Let's have sex right now." But no, Rory doesn't say that. But he's like. He's like, no, let's not do any of that, and we're gonna have a big adventure with you, Doctor, and have fun because we have all these questions that still need answered. And then the Doctor gets a telephone call from somebody mysterious. He says, "Your Majesty" at the end, so
Yeah.
maybe it's one of the, like Liz the 23rd or whatever the hell it was, Liz 1000. He talks about how that there is a Egyptian god or something come back to life
Yeah.
on the Orient Express in space, completely undermining the Series 8 episode Mummy on the Orient Express, which is also in space. Did Moffat forget that he wrote about the Orient Express in space? I hope somebody got fired for this blunder.
Or maybe the mummy was an Egyptian goddess that we completely forgot about, because two things could be the same.
Maybe they are. Yeah, maybe Moffat didn't forget, and I just haven't seen the Mummy on the Orient Express in a long time, which is true because I don't think I've seen it since it came out.
Yeah.
But because it's like a fine episode.
Yeah, it's a fine episode.
Series 8 is a mediocre to bad season.
But it is fun. But the Doctor confesses to Clara that the mysterious force which enticed him to the Orient Express even phoned the TARDIS once, recalling the final scene of The Big Bang 2010, where the 11th Doctor answers a call concerning an Egyptian goddess.
So it does. They do tie it
guess.
in. We need to cover Mummy on the Orient Express at some point.
Well,
I need to know. I need to have these answers. I
Yeah.
need these answers. I need to know.
But I remember that episode because it had Queen. It had another Queen song in it, which is fun. It had the pop star Foxes singing a Queen song. Remember Foxes?
I don't. I have no idea who that is.
We even made a music video where she sings the entirety of a Queen song.
The fuck is Foxes?
She did a really good cover of "Don't Stop Me Now."
As good as McFly, the boy band from the early 2000s.
God.
They did a cover of "Don't Stop Me Now."
I remember
I've never seen this lady's face in my life.
she's in the background of many shots. But
Does she make music still? What happened to her?
I don't know.
Interesting. I've never heard of her in my life.
I tried to look her up and then just get the animal, so it's really hard to try and find her.
Fox's musician. Fox's English singer, songwriter, and model. Professional English singer, debut album 2014. I guess she still makes music. She's only 34. Jeez.
Yeah, she was young. Oh, she did a
She was
Fall Out
young.
Boy song. She was featured in
God,
the
she
Fall
was-
Out.
Yeah, she was really young when she blew up, and I never heard of her.
Yeah, her cover of "Don't Stop Me Now" is really good. I really like it. It's like a jazzy version of a song.
Interesting. I assume she's got a Spotify. Foxes, musical artist, 487,000 monthly listeners. I might have a dig into her discography. Maybe I'll like her, but she might be too poppy for me. But anyway, the episode then ends with them traveling off in a very nice transition into the credits, and that is the end of The Big Bang, which I think is a fantastically fun series finale. For series 5, I think it's much better than the Pandorica opens. I think this is just Moffat being silly and fun and goofy, and the writing is great, the character stuff is great. It's just a good time and it flies by. It's perfectly paced. Really, really good episode. Really solid final. Loved it.
Yeah, the problem with the Pandorica Opens is, again, just the fact that you're just spinning their wheels for that cliffhanger. And this episode, I don't think it holds up as well as it did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it felt more epic. It felt much bigger, you know? It felt more like the Stolen Earth and the Journey's End kind of level threat to the Doctor universe. And when I go back to it now, it feels so much smaller. Because it's only... Basically, the whole episode just has like 5 cast members.
And all of them are just listening to the Doctor talk.
Yeah, and they're just wandering around a museum for most of the episode. And it does feel a lot cheaper than I remember it being, but it still is so much fun. And you can see Stephen Moffat just having fun. It's a unique Doctor Who episode, at least, you know? There's not much episodes that actually take time travel in this way, which is weird for a show about time travel, but... You know, it's a great episode. I really enjoyed it. Much better than last week's, for sure.
Yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed it as well. And now we say goodbye to Matthew Smithhew for a long time. And I'm very sad about that because he's one of my favorite Doctors. But next week, it is the end of the month. And that means it is news roundup time. And there's actually been news this month. A tiny little bit. There's been a tiny little bit of news this month. Wowee, we're getting close to the release of Doctor Who, it seems. Because last month, the past forever, it feels like there's been no news. It's been like 3-4 months since we've had
it's been a long time. But tomorrow we might get a trailer, so we'll discuss the trailer next Friday. So look forward to that.
Yeah.
If there is a trailer, we don't know yet, but...
Who knows? And then in October, we continue looking through each Doctor chronologically as we're finally on to my favorite Doctor. I said that as I burped. That's how you know it's true. With Peter Capaldi. Well, he's like joint first. Paul McGann is there as well. I love all the Doctors.
William Hartnell. What about William Hartnell?
He's above them. He's the best. Hartnell has good moments, but he's definitely far from my favorite. But we are looking at Peter Capaldi's Series 10 final with World Enough and Time and The Doctor Falls. We'll be covering World Enough and Time the first week. The second week, The Doctor Falls. And I haven't seen this since it came out. So
Same.
I am very excited to revisit it because I remember loving it when it came out. Misty? Oh my god, Misty. Missy, not Misty from Pokemon, Missy from Doctor Who. Missy and being there and the John Sim as the Master. It's just incredible. I remember being on the edge of my seat and loving it. And also... I don't remember being upset that they spoiled the reveal of John Sim the week before, but we'll talk about that when that episode comes out.
You mean Misty from Yellow Jackets.
Yeah. Misty from Yellow Jackets, who is famous from appearing in Pokemon.
They didn't reveal it the week before. They revealed it before the series
the trailer,
started.
Wasn't it?
We revealed
was it that long.
Yeah, it was a photograph, I believe. We were announced. Oh yeah, John Sim's back. And then we'll get into that. I'm looking forward to it because I haven't seen it since it aired as well. I remember loving it as well, so I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be great fun. I can't believe we're almost at the end of the year. It's insane.
Yeah, this year's been crazy fast. It was slow. I think this year was slow to begin with. Like January, February took fucking a lifetime, and then after that, it's been a blink.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no,
you don't remember the rules. Don't blink. Haha.
Yeah, of course, yes. But until then, you can find us on Facebook at Who Watches Who, on x.com at Watches Doctor. You can watch this podcast in video form, youtube.com/Who Watches Who Pod, where you can see our lovely faces, and be sure to subscribe and thumbs up and leave a comment if you want. I don't really care. You can also listen to the podcast in audio form anywhere you get podcasts. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Podcast Addict. There's an RSS feed where you can can stick us into the podcast app of your choice. You can send us an email if you want, whowatcheswhopod@gmail.com. I haven't said that one in ages. Yes. Other than that, you can follow my gaming channel, Psychedelic Gaming Hobos. God, there's too many things to remember. You'd think I'd write it down 115 episodes in. Not gonna happen. Until then, we will see you next week with the news. Bye-bye.
Bye.